No such thing really as a bad bike, is there? And none of the bikes in this list is truly bad in a catastrophic sense. Like with cars nowadays, it's impossible to buy a genuinely awful bike as it was, say, 30 or 40 years ago. Now, this is just a rundown of bikes that left me feeling a little underwhelmed. I suppose objectively the worst bike I've ever ridden was our 9 horsepower Honda Vision, but I knew it was going to be terrible when we bought it, and so I didn't feel let down. Now, in this list, I want to focus on half a dozen bikes that lured me in, either with brand image, engine spec, popularity, or sexy good looks, only to dash my ingenuous expectations when I actually rode them. Now, of course, this is an entirely subjective compilation as requested by many of you who enjoyed the best bikes video I posted a few weeks ago. And inevitably, owners of the bikes I refer to are going to feel a bit aggrieved. But please don't be, this is just my own personal opinion. And if you're happy with your bike, then great, enjoy it. To keep this as fair as possible, I'll just do one bike per manufacturer. And as a gesture of humility, I'll even kick off with a bike that I bought and rode for 6 months before acknowledging my mistake. Now, this would be the BMW F900 XR. It was the middle of December 2019, a couple of weeks after the EICMA show in Milan, and I just sold my Honda CB500X and so was looking for a replacement. And then BMW sprang this on us, a sort of super 500X, I thought. More power, more gadgets, and a posh badge. What wasn't to like? So I pre-ordered one without trying it first. Yep, sounds stupid, and it was. I was taken in by the good looks and the promise of a premium brand. First problem was the price. I couldn't resist ticking most, if not all, the options. It was my first BMW, and I hadn't realised that the enticing base price is their way of luring you into the showroom, only to force you to spend thousands more on options that you convince yourself you can't possibly live without. So I paid way too much, double what I paid for my Honda, in fact. The second problem was the engine. 105 horsepower, yeah, but where exactly? I honestly couldn't feel the power. The bike was reasonably fast if I pushed it, but so unexciting, so bland, nondescript. It just didn't feel as good as it looked. The final nail in the coffin was the very disappointing after-sales service I received from the dealer. Like many brand new cars and bikes, there were a couple of relatively minor teething problems that needed rectifying, but the customer service was as lackluster as the bike's engine, and certainly not what I'd been expecting from this supposedly premium marque. So I decided to get rid. It's not a bad bike, but there are better at this price range, and I have never regretted selling it. The second bike on the list, and by the way these are in no particular order, although this is possibly the most disappointing, flamesuit on, the Honda NT1100, at least in DCT guise. Dull I can deal with, just about, but this is worse than dull. It's expensive and it's poor. Very poor, and I just don't get why they're selling so many. The French are going wild for the NT, for example, with dealers currently quoting a 6 or 8 months delivery time. Why so disappointing? Well, look at it. The front end looks just like my Honda ADV 350, which is great for me on my crappy €6,000 scooter. I often get waved at by oncoming riders who think I'm on a proper bike. Great if you're on the scooter, but I can't help wondering how many NT owners get mistaken for scooter riders. The engine has got a reasonable amount of power and torque, but it's hardly what I'd call exciting. And they don't help themselves with these monochromatic colours, do they? Black, grey or white. Oh wait, I was forgetting, at the beginning of September Honda announced a new colour for the 2023 model year. Gunmetal black metallic. Right, so that would be a slightly different black to the black we had last year. Brilliant, well done Honda. And sorry, but that expensive optional DCT gearbox is clunky and the software needs a complete overhaul. Normal mode is a waste of time because you find yourself in fourth by the time you're doing 20 miles an hour, and even in sport mode it has the habit of changing down just when you're in the middle of a bend, most disconcerting. Now, I should just say that I've tried the DCT on the Goldwing and the NC750X, where it was much smoother and seemed much more intelligent. So maybe there was a problem with the NT I rode, but personally I would save the cash and the kilos and go for the manual with the quick shifter. If you can get past those looks and aren't bothered about threading acceleration. The Triumph Bonneville T120, a difficult case to defend if ever there was one. Lovely bike to ride in isolation, but I really don't understand why anyone would want this over the Speed Twin 1200. It's the same price, give or take €50. It weighs 20 kilos more. It looks pretty much the same, maybe a bit more retro. 80 horsepower instead of 100, and slightly less torque. Okay, you get more colour options, a bit more chrome and a pair of rubber gaiters on the forks, but choosing this over the much more dynamically gifted Speed Twin makes absolutely no sense to me. Owners have told me that they don't need the extra power and actually prefer the more relaxed ride of the T120. But I think, well, get the Speed Twin and just don't twist the throttle so much. Surely it's nice to know that you have an extra 20 horsepower if you need it. Next, flame suit on again, the veritable motorcycle institution that is the Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. Why disappointing? Well, in a nutshell, I felt as though I was sitting on a 125, it accelerated like a 400, and it's priced like a 750. It does look good, well, apart from the giant Kinder Egg on the side, and there is a huge aftermarket scene to keep us tweakers happy. But I was expecting a bit more character from the engine, a more compliant ride, nicer quality switchgear, and crucially, a lower price. At €7,500, it's priced too close to better bikes. Now, I do understand the appeal of belonging to an enthusiast scene, clubs, forums, meets, a plethora of mods and accessories. I get that, but I personally would want to start with a more substantial base. Like many of you, I suspect, I've watched the Missenden Flyer's slightly toe-curling videos on customizing his Interceptor. Yes, he's had a lot of fun and the end result does look nice, but at the end of the day, it's still only a 48 horsepower 650 twin that's worth no more than a standard used example. I don't know, we clearly have different priorities. And finally, the Harley-Davidson Sportster S that I tried about a year ago. It was my first Harley and I was expecting something special, and I got it in the form of extreme back pain for 48 hours. I guess feet forward and arms stretched out as if I were a gibbon is an acquired taste that I'm sure aficionados get used to and actually enjoy, but I certainly did not. Other than that, the engine was certainly beefy, but the single front disc brakes weren't up to the job and the fit and finish was a massive disappointment. I believe it has been a sales flop, so I guess my misgivings were well founded. A quick word of thanks before I wrap up to the 869 of you who have voted so far in my recent poll. I'm looking for a mile-munching sports tourer adventure-y type of bike to take on longer rides with my mates. The Speed Twin is a fabulous machine and I intend keeping it, but with little to no wind protection or luggage carrying abilities, it's not ideal for longer trips. I had narrowed my choice down to the forthcoming Honda Transalp, which would be great for the channel, and the Ducati Multistrada V2S, which I really wanted. Now, interestingly, the overwhelming victory in the poll figures you can see here for the Transalp were not actually mirrored in your comments, where about 2/3 of you urged me to get the bike that I really wanted. Beware of buyer's remorse, one viewer wrote, and another pointed out that after the first couple of months, the Transalp would become mainstream, but I'd be stuck with it. Anyway, the latest is that I've just about ruled out the Ducati, to be honest. €18,000 for only 115 horsepower is a bit excessive, and the idea that I'd have to dismantle half the bike to clean the air filter every time I venture onto the dusty forest trails here has put me off a little. So the Transalp is still in the running, but there's also a new contender, which I'll talk about in another video. I just wanted to keep you in the loop and thank you for your invaluable input so far. It's genuinely useful and very much appreciated. Anyway, I'd be interested to know in the comments what the biggest motorcycling letdown for you has been. I might try and compile a list and then go out and try them for myself. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed it, and as always, thanks for watching.